Hey, what's going on, guys? Rome Gaming here. Before we get started, I just wanted to mention some of my socials in the description of the video. If you want to support the channel, please check those out. If you want to support the channel in other ways, please consider just dropping a like or a nice comment somewhere on the video. It really helps the algorithm push our content out there to a broader audience. With that being said, hope you guys enjoy the episode. Hey, what's going on, guys? Rome Gaming here, back into the video. Today's episode, we're going to take a look at Restoration Druid in the War Within beta and whether or not you should play it going into War Within. This guide is specifically going to focus on Mythic Plus. We will not cover anything with PvP or raiding. Let's talk about some of the Restoration Druid changes coming in War Within. We're not going to cover absolutely everything here, just some of the main stuff. To get a new talent here, Dream of Sonaris. So while Heart of the Wild is active, our damage is basically converted into healing. I do not think that this is a very strong talent. I think it's a good idea. I think it's kind of cool, but I do not think it's very strong. We also have Call of the Elder Druid. So when you shift into combat shapeshift form, you'll cast Star Search and gain Heart of the Wild for 10 seconds, once every 60 seconds. So basically, when you shapeshift or if you've learned Star Surge, you'll get a mini Heart of the Wild, essentially. We also have Thriving Vegetation. Again, I don't think super strong talent for Mythic Plus, but instantly heals. So Rejuvenation will instantly heal for 15 to 30% of its periodic healing, and Regrowth duration is increased by 3 to 6 seconds, depending on how many talents you put into it. A new talent here, Prosperity. This is very strong, and we'll talk about this a little bit later, but basically this is going to give us Swiftman 2 charges. Tranquility was reworked, so its initial healing is increased by 400%, and then beyond 5 targets, it is reduced. Tranquility is still not super strong in Mythic Plus. I do not think we'll be taking it. I think this needs to be buffed even more than 400%, maybe even double. It's just not enough healing. You're standing still, you're channeling it, you're very vulnerable to damage. So probably not worth the talent point, unfortunately. Still, a buff to Rejuvenation, not super strong for us in Mythic Plus content. Grove Guardians were nerfed by 15%, so that one will hurt. A little bit reduced healing from our Wild Synthesis as well as our Wild Growth. Verdant Infusion was also nerfed down to 8 seconds, so Swiftman no longer consumes a heal every time effect. Extends the duration of your hot effects by 8 seconds. This is okay though, because we'll probably be taking Prosperity over Verdant Infusion. Nurturing Dormancy was also nerfed to 4 seconds, a 4-second cap instead of 6 seconds. The crit strike chance of regrowth was reduced to 5% per stack through Abundance instead of 8%. And then we also had some talents removed. So we no longer have our Adaptive Swarm, and we no longer have our Embroiled Swarm that's paired with it. And then Luxuriant Soil was also removed. So we kind of saw this coming. I mean, Restoration Druid was probably borderline OP. I mean, I think it was probably OP in Season 4 Dragonflight. They're just S+ tier. Our healing is just absolutely insane. And we're one of the specs that are kind of hard to balance just due to all the scaling, all the ramp that we can get with our mastery. And our healing can just kind of get off the charts very quickly. And then also we probably saw some nerfs here as well, just due to our hero talents. So that's all the changes for now. Let's go ahead and get into hero talents. Okay, let's first quickly talk about Keeper of the Grove. So we have something called Dream Surge here. Grove Guardians cause your next targeted heal to create 2 dream petals near the target, healing 3 nearby allies. So basically these petals will form on the ground and they're going to heal our allies. And it's very passive. This kind of comes through our Grove Guardians, which is very passive as well. So it's not really something that we have to worry about too much. Just kind of just happens, right? As you heal, these petals come out, they heal your targets. Now at the bottom here, we have Harmony of the Grove. So each of your Grove Guardians increases your healing done by 5% while active. So of course, this will stack if you have multiple Grove Guardians out. And the main talent that I do want to talk about here is in the very center of the Keeper of the Grove tree, Sonaris' Might. So casting Swiftman increases your haste by 10% for 6 seconds. So basically the way this works is, let's just say, for example, your haste is at 30%. When you Swiftman, your haste will now go to 40%. So it's absolutely broken. This is probably the strongest talent node on your tree. And this was actually just recently nerfed. This was 12%, and they nerfed it down to 10%. So what this means is we're now going to be playing double Swiftman. So we will be taking Prosperity over Verdant Infusion. So Prosperity Swiftman now has 2 charges. And then not only are we going to be playing Prosperity, we're also going to be taking Reforestation. So every 3 casts of Swiftman grants you Incarnation Tree of Life. So you can kind of see the synergy between these 3 nodes here. Now, another thing that's very interesting is we have 3 talents here that directly synergize with regrowth. And essentially what they've done with regrowth is they have buffed it substantially in War Within, and it's actually a button that we're going to be pressing a lot more in our rotation. And what's really cool about this spec is if we go down here to Blooming Infusion, every 5 regrowths you cast makes your next Wrath, Starfire, or Entangling Roots instant and increases the damage it deals by 100%. So this will passively proc. Your Starfire will kind of glow on the screen and you'll press it, instant cast, double damage. And you can actually, in AoE scenarios, you could just spam regrowths and Starfires, and a lot of the times it will do more damage than just spamming Starfire by itself. Now, what makes this even more OP is when you pair this with something like Master Shapeshifter here. So you can kind of see in the middle, Wrath, Starfire, Star Surge deal 30% additional damage and generate 43,000 mana. So when we are Starfiring, when we are Wrathing, we're going to be getting a ton of mana back. So we get those instant cast Star Surges, and it's basically like a very mini mana potion. You can also pair your Master Shapeshifter with something like your Tree of Life and get those instant cast Wraths, and you can just regenerate an unbelievable amount of mana very quickly. There are many instances where I could just take my mana bar from 50% to 100% in just a few seconds if I was allowed to cast those Wraths if there's no damage going out. Now, I'm not saying that's the best way to use your Tree of Life cooldown, but you do have the option there, and it is a great way to restore mana, and it takes a lot of the mana issues away from Restoration Druid because we are such a very mana-heavy spec to play. Then we also have a few other things like Bounteous Bloom, which is going to increase Grove Guardian's healing by 30%. Or something like Treants of the Moon, they're going to cast out a Moonfire. So the tree overall, right, is going to focus on your Grove Guardians, but you do also have some stuff over here on the right-hand side, kind of working with your regrowth. Then one last thing to note is on Cenarius Smite, your Swiftman, that 10% haste that you get from it, if you cast 2 Swiftmans in a row, you do not get 20% haste. They will overwrite each other. So it's really one of those situations where you're going to be rotating through your Swiftman and you don't just be spamming it. So yeah, that's all we're going to really talk about in terms of hero talents. So now let's just kind of talk about the general playstyle of Restoration Druid. So it's going to be very similar to Season 4 of Dragonflight. However, now we are leaning a little bit more on Swiftman, a little bit more on regrowth, especially when you factor in, again, that Cenarius Smite. From a lot of people that I've talked to, it's almost like you have a permanent bloodlust, and the gameplay speed, just, you know, how quickly you're going through your rotation and casting your spells is very fast, very high APM, probably even more APM than something like a Holy Paladin. And that's mainly due to all this haste that you're getting and those reduced globals. And this is kind of nice for Restoration Druid because you can go into a big pool and it doesn't take as long to set everything up. You know, you can go into a pool, Efflorescence, into a double life bloom, into, let's just say, a regrowth, into a Swiftman. Then you'll get all that haste, and then you can kind of put that haste into like a wild growth or regrowth spams if healing is necessary. And if not, you can just put that haste into like Starfire spam. And due to all this haste, right, you can cast your spells so much faster. You can get Starfires out, Wraths out very quickly. And if you're taking something like Master Shapeshifter, you're going to get a ton of mana back. And all this mana that you're getting back, again, can be funneled into regrowths if necessary. So overall, I guess just kind of closing thoughts here. Not a ton is changing on Resto Druid from Dragonflight. It's just everything that you're doing previously just seems to be a little bit faster now. And we are leaning a little bit more on Swiftmans. We are leaning a little bit more on regrowth. And just the ability to be able to spam your damage and get mana back, I think is a really good design. I wish more healers played like Restoration Druid is playing right now. I feel like healers should have a triage of options, either do damage, do healing, or be able to focus on regenerating your mana. I feel that if I want to put 5 or 6 seconds of my time into getting my mana bar up, I should be allowed to do that. I would love to see this incorporated into more of the healers. Now, there are a lot of healers that don't have a ton of mana problems, but there are some that do. Looking at you, Restoration Shaman, especially in like Season 1, where we have low critical strike rating and we can't get as many of those Resurgence procs. Anyways, I'm ranting at this point. That's going to be the end of this video, guys. If you enjoyed it, please consider liking and subscribing to the channel. I also have some socials in the description of the video if you want to check those out. We have a new Patreon. We also have a new Discord. So please check those out and help support the channel if you can. Thank you guys for watching. We'll see you on the next one.